Welcome to Modern Entrepreneur. Today we have Rachel Schnorr, who is the Vice President of the Merkle SEM core team of paid search, shopping, and data feed professionals. She's got 10 years of experience overseeing digital programs for Fortune 500 and IR top 500 companies all around the world. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so tell us what I just said. What does that mean exactly?
So currently I'm serving as Vice President of SEM for Merkle's media agency arm.
And Merkle is?
Merkle is a global performance marketing company. So
Okay.
we have about 5,000 employees globally. We're now a part of the Dentsu Aegis network. And our two main arms of our business are we have a media agency side where we do full service media campaign management. And then we have a database and technology and marketing enablement side of the business.
You're a giant advertising agency that works for giant companies, and you run the entire search engine marketing part of that business.
Yeah, in particular, what my role is now, for the past 4 years I've been in this role, is focusing on leading and engaging our team. So certainly it's overseeing client delivery and success at a high level. A lot of it is, kind of managing and engaging our team, the resource management component, what's changing in the industry that we need to be focused on, how are we sharing and constantly learning and innovating together. Yeah,
so most of us are like in the trenches, like clicking on Facebook ad platforms and like trying to figure out how to set up Google Analytics, right? And it sounds like you have gotten yourself in a position in your career where those people probably work for you, and so I'm curious what it looks like from your perspective, like where this industry is going, and like what are the challenges that the providers, the platforms are facing, and how are they going to solve those challenges, and what is the impact that's going to have on the people like us who click into these platforms day to day?
I should note that I started as a baby analyst clicking into those platforms day to day.
You mean you weren't born as a VP?
No. So absolutely, like you can never move past the importance of getting the tactics right. So it's not going to be as fun or sexy to talk about. So those things have to still, the optimization, the granular optimization needs to happen every day. In particular, some of the areas where we've been challenging ourselves to focus on, taking our practice forward, is around the area of people-based marketing, if you're familiar with that term. So how are we, in addition to optimizing for keywords or ad copy or landing pages or A/B testing, in particular, how are we challenging ourselves to really understand our audiences, our clients' audiences, and create messaging that is specific and unique to those individuals, and truly try to leverage the increases in technology that Google provides and other platforms provide to get a much more individual and customized people-based approach to marketing. And so we try to do that in SEM and then in many of our other channels as well.
It sounds like an evolution, hopefully more than just in terms of terminology, from like persona-based marketing, right? Like that's what we were talking about a minute ago. So what's the difference?
So this is more based on individual customer data that you have, that companies have. So leveraging, how do you leverage your customer list and funnel that into your various marketing channels to help you make smarter decisions, and wherever possible, actually market to those individuals when you see them in market. So persona is having a decent understanding of your average customer sets and creating major buckets. And this is working off of that, but wherever possible, hey, I have some identifiers that tell me I know this person, so I'm going to make that even more specific choice. I know what's most relevant to them, and I'm going to put that ad or that keyword or that creative in front of them as a result.
And what sort of data are you collecting and basing those sort of decisions on?
Well, obviously, Google AdWords, Bing, the providers, Google Analytics, provide a lot of data. They provide the ability to understand demographics and target based on audiences. But then it's also working off of the client's email list or customer data as well to activate. So it's the combination of those two things.
Yeah. So can you give me like a full-on on the street example of a campaign that you've taken from like closer to one size fits all or like larger buckets to something where you're literally targeting per tiny little buckets of few people?
So several years ago, I would say where we were is you had your account for an advertiser. And you had campaigns focused on different keywords or different segments of your business.
Yeah.
So those things are still there. And then, increasingly in the past few years, Google and Bing and other platforms have allowed the ability to, target based on demographics. or you had the ability to tag someone who had been to your site. And so that gives you a better layer of information. And then I would say kind of where we are now, or where we're continuing to try to go, the true people-based is uploading a list of customers who have, say in the retail example, who have purchased from you, and they've purchased from particular categories that drive really strong lifetime value. So they'll be repeat customers.
Sure.
So one, you can bid more aggressively, so you want to be more present when Google kind of alerts you that these customers are in market. And then two, how do you tailor the ad copy or whatever messaging it is and the landing page experience to those individuals? In particular, if they're out there searching on terms that are still relevant to your business and they would have the opportunity to purchase from a competitor, you want to obviously be as present and visible in multiple channels as you can.
It's an interesting conversation because I'll admit I thought that having a Fortune 500 advertiser in here, you'd have a very different world than the one that we experience on a day-to-day basis, but it actually sounds awfully familiar. How do you make that decision about how specific and targeted to get?
One, it still has to be scalable. So if you slice and dice it too much, it gets unmanageable. And then two, the data that you have is not significant enough to make good decisions off of. So you have to always keep those things in mind. So we want to get as targeted as possible, but then you don't want to chop things up too small. So I think ways that we've tried to find the balance is we work with our clients to say, what are your top one or two most important goals or most important customer segments? And let's really focus on how we can do our best job of marketing to those individuals and accomplishing whatever goal you have. So we're not going to do this with 15 different segments.
So your customers, your clients, what are the key metrics they're looking for in terms of success out of you?
So we have, whether it's retail or lead gen, we have clients that are very focused on KPIs, kind of more immediate. So whether it's sales driven, conversions, clicks, leads. And then we have clients on the other end of the scale that are a bit more branding focused and awareness focused. And so they're concerned about traffic volume, about things like impression share, share of voice.
And even in search engine marketing, which is your wing of the business, there's folks that are spending money on branding in there.
There's a little bit of branding as well as direct response in, I would say, every account. But there are definitely accounts that skew more towards the awareness and branding, and then more that really skew towards the direct response. And I would say in particular, the mobile channel is the one that kind of gives everyone the most challenge, because mobile, it is becoming a device that we now purchase from more and more because it's a part of our everyday life. But mobile is not a purchase first channel like someone searching for something on a desktop is. It's a research channel. And so connecting those dots continues to be a challenge for everyone. And it's true connecting the dots across channels as well.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big challenge that we're facing as things continue to get more fragmented, either by device or just by channels. The fact that we use so many devices means that our experience with brands is so all over the place.
Yeah, and so you're looking at the data, things like cost per click, cost per acquisition, stuff like that on a daily basis?
Yeah, absolutely, or intraday,
Or even intraday.
ROI is an important one for our clients who measure sales and revenue driven through the channel.
Crazy.
So it depends. Yeah, if you have a campaign that's really important to you, or during seasonality, we're looking at it multiple times a day.
Multiple times a day, yeah, for retailers especially.
Yeah.
So just out of curiosity, one of the challenges that our customers tend to have with some of these platforms, without naming names, Facebook, is just getting our freaking ads approved and not having our stuff randomly shut down for who knows what sort of violations, and then and it's not like we're even doing anything wrong, and then turned right back on again, and it just feels like some of these platforms are sort of so young that they're having a hard time managing the situation. I'm just curious, do you experience that, or do you guys have do you call Mark?
No, we still have to go through most of the same hoops we do have great teams of representatives from Google, Yahoo, from the engines.
Yeah.
But I think it takes vigilance, and we fight the same type of disapprovals anybody else would.
Yeah.
And I can't, I'm more so in the paid search space and less in the media space, so I don't want to comment on something incorrectly about Facebook ad disapprovals. But we certainly deal with that, especially in the protected fields on AdWords, whether it's medical supplies or weapons or alcohol, things that Google regulates. So we're always having to work around, or just ads being disapproved because they think there's a term flagged in there that isn't actually what the ad's about.
It's a valuable perspective, just because I think that many small entrepreneurs think that life gets completely different when you get back. I mean, obviously you have a budget and you have people that are calling you back from Google and stuff like that. But you're still battling the entire world, just like the rest of us are.
I wouldn't say it's all that different. I mean, there's still different financial constraints on a large company than a small one. So I think at the end of the day, our lives are probably a lot more similar than you might think.
They are different, yeah. As we already discussed, you weren't born a vice president of a Fortune 500 company, so you got there somehow.
Yeah.
What would you, what piece of advice would you have given your younger self as you were, kicking off your college, post-college life that would have made that a smoother experience?
Yeah, I think it took me probably longer than it should have to realize sort of the difference between how I'm wired as a person, how I communicate, how I work, how I see things, how my brain works, and how others are. So there was at some point a light bulb moment where I realized, the way that I do things was not always the way everyone else does. It's obviously a very basic concept. So I went through some pain, managing people or trying to lead teams where you try to apply an approach that makes sense to you and it doesn't land well on the other person. So, it may sound cliche, but for me, a lot of the, personality or work style tests have been really helpful for me. For example, like the DISC profile, just something as simple as that helped me to start to think in terms of that. Well, I'm sort of coming at things from this direction because these are the types of things that are important to me, and here's why this other person on my team is responding totally different. And so understanding how to motivate and engage and lead others when they're different from you, that's probably definitely been one of my biggest growth areas. And I've just realized more and more how important that concept is.
And so what do you think your unique skill set is that has had you be so successful at such a young age?
So when I started my career, I was in a startup. It was called RKG. It was an SEM boutique agency. And so we were about 20 people when I started. And I just continued to work hard, apply myself, and being a part of a growing company in a fast-growing field, there were opportunities for growth. And so just doing that, I think, positioned me well and being willing to take on new challenges. So I think that's been a huge part. I think you just can't underestimate the importance of just being diligent and willing to stick through some hard things. That's something that I do feel like I see more often I'm not that old, but in the younger generation, even just in the past few years, there's a different willingness to sort of stick something out or to be on a project you don't like. And I think just kind of managing your own expectations and having a longer term view is important. So, for me, there were several times I didn't know what was around the corner, and several times I've wanted to give up, many times. And just being willing to stick through that and apply yourself. It's important to truly see people and get to know people. So for me, my team is one of the most important parts, and it's really why I do what I do. And so I think just taking the time to really get to know people, and the personal aspect of the work that we do can't be removed from it. And so I think that's what makes it meaningful, and that's what helps you learn more about yourself and learn more about others and connect well. Clients are still people at the end of the day. So you're still having a human-to-human relationship there. Yeah.
So it sounds like you're largely at this point focused on leadership and client management.
Yep.
What do you feel like your kind of personal cutting edge is? What are you learning right now? What is your next challenge?
Personally, I've been thinking a lot about just good communication. So it's fascinating. I think I'm always trying to be a student of others. I just soak up I'm always observing whatever's around me. And what story am I telling about the work that either I'm doing or that our team is collectively doing, and how am I inspiring others through that, and just really cleanly communicating what we're all working towards together. So communication is an area where I am continuing to challenge myself to grow in just building relationships with others. And I think that's important as I've become a part of a large company that has many different areas that I was not familiar with before. So I'm constantly building new relationships or needing to get buy-in from this person over here that I don't have a relationship with. So just communication is really important.
can you imagine what you would like your legacy to be, 20, 30 years from now when you look back on kind of what you've accomplished with this part of your life? What would you like for people to be thinking about you?
Ultimately, I'd like to just be remembered as someone who always tried to do their best, was kind, gave others opportunity. That's one of the things that I'm most excited about, is when I have the opportunity to help others do and be better than they thought they could. And because that's what others have done for me. So, it's so easy to kind of be buried under your task list or be worried, like pressures from clients, people, whatever. So allowing someone to grow professionally and personally, and like being able to be a part of that in any small way, is something that's it's really meaningful, and I'm honored to get the chance to do that. So I would just hope that wherever possible, I would continue to take those steps to do that with whomever I come across.
Yeah. So it's hard to characterize a 5,000 person company as an entrepreneurial venture, but I think that probably even in companies that large, there's that spirit has got to exist, or you become irrelevant quickly.
Yep.
What do you feel like it means to be an entrepreneur today?
The scale and efficiency have to go along with innovation for anything to be sustainable. Mm-hmm. So if you have an awesome idea, but it's a super customized one, and it's not going to be easy or financially possible to repeat it, then that's going to be really difficult. And what gets me really excited is thinking about, just even as I take a step back and look globally, I just think there's a lot of optimism, and you think about the technology that's now available to address human problems across the world that we haven't had before. A modern entrepreneur is someone who, identifies a way to solve problems that are really meaningful, and I think people will really get behind that and be really inspired by that. So if you have something that is scalable and repeatable, and has some sort of efficiency to it, and then it's working for a good purpose, for the common good of society or your company or whatever, I think that's a recipe for a really strong idea to continue to go forward.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to
Thank
talk.
you.
I really appreciate it. Would you sign our wall?
Sure, of course.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.